Elena reached the destination she had been asked to come to. It was a black mansion giving off spooky vibes, standing in the middle of a forest with no other property nearby. The black mansion stood alone in the heart of a dense, ancient forest. Its imposing structure, painted in deep matte black, contrasted starkly with the lush greenery surrounding it. The mansion's tall, narrow windows, framed by dark, ornate shutters, gave off an air of mystery. Ivy and moss crept up the sides, hinting at its long history within the woods. The steep slate-gray roof added to its foreboding presence. A grand wrought iron gate opened to a cobblestone path leading to an intricately carved wooden door. The only sounds were the whispers of the wind through the trees and the occasional call of wildlife, emphasizing the isolation of the solitary estate. The mansion's seclusion, deep within the forest, suggested both a sanctuary and a secretive retreat, untouched and undisturbed by the outside world. The queen looked around carefully. After ensuring that no one was present, she stepped toward the mansion. The ground was muddy due to the cold, rainy weather. As the queen moved forward, her footsteps echoed softly. She climbed the stairs and reached the entrance. Just as she was about to ring the bell, the door swung open. A kinner stood framed in the dim light of the foyer. They were tall and dignified, carrying an air of timeless grace. Their kohl-lined eyes gleamed with wisdom and mystery. They wore a flowing, elaborately embroidered sari in deep shades of purple and gold, the fabric shimmering subtly with each movement. Their presence was commanding yet serene, radiating both strength and compassion. A cascade of dark, wavy hair fell gracefully over their shoulders, adorned with delicate silver ornaments that jingled softly as they moved. As Elena approached, the kinner greeted her with a warm yet enigmatic smile and spoke in a melodic but unfamiliar tone. "Once again, you are most welcome, Elena, or rather, the evil queen." The words seemed to linger in the air, forming a symphony of ancient resonance. Each syllable flowed effortlessly from their tongue, carrying a magical, timeless quality. The language rose and fell like distant ocean waves, echoing history, tradition, and something almost otherworldly. Elena felt both intrigued and enchanted. Elena smiled softly and replied, "Evil queen for the world, perhaps, but for you, I am still that 20-year-old Elena to whom you taught so much." Despite her calm expression, there was urgency in her mind. She stepped inside the mansion as the kinner closed the heavy door behind her and gestured for her to move forward. The queen lifted her head and looked down the corridor. The passage was not unfamiliar to her, but she had returned after a long time. Memories pulled her back to the day she first walked through these halls when she was only 20. Years ago, when she had first entered the mansion, everything looked exactly as it did now, except for her own aura. Back then, she carried hesitation and fear within her. When she had stepped into the underworld, her connections had led her here, to Madame Valeria Kane. Valeria Kane was a respected and enigmatic kinner who had long established herself as a powerful figure operating in the shadows. Known for her sharp intelligence and discreet yet influential trade in weapons within the underworld, she commanded both fear and admiration. Their reputation was built on both fear and reverence, and they were known to be highly selective about their clientele. When Elena, a determined and fiercely independent 20-year-old who had already carved a name for herself in the criminal underworld, sought out Valeria Kane, it became an encounter neither of them would ever forget. As the doors of the mansion opened, young Elena's jaw dropped at the sight of intricately carved weapons and shields mounted along the walls. She swallowed hard, but stepped inside without allowing even a trace of fear to show on her face. Moments later, a figure appeared before her, none other than Valeria Kane. They led the young woman into the grand hall. Seated regally on a cushioned chair, Valeria Kane radiated authority and mystique. Their sharp, penetrating eyes studied Elena with an intensity that made her steps falter for just a second. Valeria's attire was a blend of traditional elegance and subtle menace. A silk sari draped gracefully over their form, adorned with understated jewelry that hinted at immense wealth and influence. Elena's breath caught in her throat. She had faced many formidable foes and powerful allies in her rise, but Valeria Kane was unlike anyone she had ever encountered. A quiet fear gnawed at her insides, one she carefully masked behind a facade of unwavering confidence. She knew she had to appear unshakable in front of Valeria Kane, even though her heart was racing. Breaking the silence, Valeria Kane spoke, their voice soft yet commanding, like velvet concealing a blade. "So, you are the Elena Armstrong I have heard so much about, the one who has forced the entire world to bow before her." Elena nodded, swallowing hard. "Yes, Valeria Kane, I have come here to earn your trust." Valeria's eyes narrowed slightly, a trace of amusement touching the corners of their lips. "Earn my trust? Many have tried, but only a rare few have succeeded. What makes you believe there is something so special about you that you will win my confidence?" The question lingered heavily in the air. Elena felt its weight pressing against her chest. She drew in a slow, steady breath, summoning her courage. "I am different because I am relentless. I do not merely survive, I conquer. And I respect power, true power. That is why I am here, seeking your alliance." Valeria Kane leaned back, studying her thoughtfully. They were impressed, but not yet convinced. "Let me see. It is very easy to speak boldly, but even the strongest often fail when it comes to action. There will be tests, trials that will push you beyond your limits. Only then will I decide whether you are truly worthy." Elena's expression remained steady, though inside, emotions clashed like thunder. Fear was present, yes, but so were determination and a fierce hunger to prove herself. She met Valeria Kane's gaze without hesitation, a silent vow burning in her eyes. "I am ready, Valeria Kane. Test me and you will see." Valeria Kane gave a slight nod, acknowledging the courage reflected in Elena's stare. "Very well, let the tests begin." As Elena left the mansion that night, the fear within her began to transform into something far stronger, resolve. She knew she had stepped into a dangerous game of high stakes and higher consequences, but she was prepared to face whatever challenges Valeria Kane placed before her. A new day dawned. A new morning. A new hustle. For young Elena, it marked the beginning of the tests and triumphs of Elena. Test 1, the trial of trust. Valeria Kane's first test was designed to measure Elena's loyalty and discretion. They assigned her a task that appeared simple on the surface: deliver a package to one of their most trusted associates, a man named Marcus. The catch. There was, however, a twist. The package was a decoy. Marcus had been secretly instructed to test Elena's integrity by offering her a lucrative bribe, a tempting proposal to hand the package over to a rival faction instead. Elena understood the weight of the task. She accepted it with steady determination. She met Marcus in a secluded alley, the air thick with tension. After a few formal exchanges, he presented his offer: wealth, influence, protection, more than enough to tempt even the most disciplined mind. For a fleeting second, Elena imagined the power the bribe could bring. But only for a second. Without hesitation, she handed the package over to Marcus, refusing the offer and proving her loyalty to Valeria Kane. When Marcus later reported back, he confirmed Elena's unwavering dedication. Valeria Kane was impressed, but still not fully convinced. Test 2, the trial of strength. The second test was far more direct and far more dangerous. Valeria Kane arranged for Elena to face one of their most skilled fighters, a towering brute named Daniel. The fight was held in an underground arena, illuminated by dim lights and surrounded by Valeria's silent associates. The purpose was clear: to measure Elena's combat ability, endurance, and resilience under pressure. Despite the fear tightening her chest, young Elena stepped into the ring with steady resolve. The fight was brutal. Daniel's sheer strength threatened to overwhelm her from the start. His blows were heavy, each strike carrying the force of a hammer. The crowd watched in silence as Elena staggered under his power. But she adapted. Instead of matching his strength, She relied on agility, speed, and strategy. She moved quickly, dodging at the last second, striking at vulnerable points, conserving her energy while forcing him to waste his. She endured his powerful hits, countering with sharp, calculated attacks. After a grueling battle, Elena stood victorious, bloodied, bruised, but unbroken. From the shadows, Valeria Kane observed closely. They did not just see physical strength. They saw resilience, strategy, an unyielding spirit. And that impressed them far more than brute force ever could. Test 3, the trial of cunning. For the final test, Valeria Kane sought to measure something far more dangerous than strength: intelligence. They assigned Elena a complex mission: retrieve a highly guarded document from the headquarters of a rival gang. No backup, no direct assistance. Only her mind, her instincts, and her ability to adapt. This test would determine whether Elena was merely a fighter or a true queen in the making. The document contained highly sensitive information, details that were crucial to Valeria Kane's operations. Elena prepared meticulously. She studied the rival gang's routines, memorized guard rotations, and carefully analyzed the layout of their hideout. Patience became her greatest weapon. Disguising herself, she slowly infiltrated their ranks, earning their trust over several days. She observed more than she spoke, blending into their environment while gathering every detail she needed. On the night of the heist, everything unfolded with calculated precision. Using her charm and sharp instincts, she navigated through layers of security. She avoided suspicion, manipulated distractions at the right moments, and retrieved the document without triggering alarms or raising doubt. By dawn, she was gone. When Elena placed the document before Valeria Kane, the Kinner's eyes gleamed with unmistakable approval. Elena had proven more than courage, more than strength. She had proven intelligence, patience, and cunning. The aftermath. Having passed all 3 trials, Elena earned Valeria Kane's trust and their alliance. Valeria Kane formally welcomed her into their inner circle, granting her access to the weapons, networks, and resources she had sought. "It is time to celebrate, Elena, to celebrate your new beginning," Valeria Kane announced. They invited her to their opulent private residence, a place few were ever permitted to enter. The invitation was presented as a gesture of respect and recognition. Upon arrival, Elena was welcomed with a lavish feast and an exquisite selection of fine wines. Soft music drifted through the halls. The atmosphere was warm, almost intimate. A sense of camaraderie lingered in the air. As they dined, Valeria Kane poured generous servings of wine into both their glasses. Lifting their glass, a rare smile curved their lips. To new beginnings and strong alliances, they toasted. Elena, filled with pride and relief after the grueling trials, clinked her glass against Valeria and took a sip. Hours passed. The wine flowed freely. Stories were exchanged. Laughter echoed softly in the grand hall. Valeria Kane appeared relaxed, almost unusually so. They laughed more openly, engaging Elena in light-hearted conversation, their sharp intensity seemingly softened by the alcohol. But Elena did not know one thing. Valeria Kane was only pretending to be drunk. Valeria Kane observed Elena closely. They noticed her posture loosening, her body slumping back against the chair. Her eyes were barely open, her movements sluggish as she swayed under the influence of alcohol. Valeria Kane shook their head in disappointment and muttered under their breath. "How can you be so careless, Elena? You cannot simply go with the flow and trust anyone blindly, especially when you claim you want to rule this dark world. Damn it, you have ruined everything." With that, they reached for a sword displayed on the wall. Disappointment was evident on their face. In anger, they unsheathed the blade and kicked Elena's chair with full force. The chair scraped harshly across the floor before losing balance, crashing down and taking the would-be queen with it. Both the chair and Elena hit the ground heavily. Yet she showed no sign of sobering up. Valeria Kane walked forward and stood over her. "You have completely disappointed me, Elena. I do not think you are fit for this role," they said coldly, then turned to walk away. But suddenly, they felt resistance on the sword still in their hand. As they turned back, their jaw dropped. Elena was standing right in front of them, completely sober. She was gripping the blade tightly with her bare hand, so tightly that blood trickled down her fingers. Yet she showed no sign of pain. In one swift motion, her hand twisted sharply, disarming Valeria with precision. She seized the sword, flipped it effortlessly in her grip, and held it steady, the blade now pointed directly at Valeria Kane. Her eyes were sharp, clear, and dangerously focused. A smirk curved her lips. "Did you really think I would let my guard down so easily?" Valeria Kane's shock lasted only a second before it transformed into admiration. They had not expected this. Slowly, they straightened, a genuine smile spreading across their face. Valeria Kane's surprise quickly shifted into admiration. They had not expected this. Straightening themselves, a genuine smile spread across their face. "Very impressive. You anticipated my move and turned the situation to your advantage. You have demonstrated not only strength and cunning, but also the ability to remain alert and strategic under pressure." Valeria Kane nodded in approval. The final test was complete. "You have passed every challenge I placed before you. Welcome to my inner circle, Elena. Together, we will reshape the underworld." Elena slowly lowered the sword and handed it back to Valeria, sealing their alliance with a firm handshake. From that night onward, their bond was solidified, built upon mutual respect and a shared understanding of the lengths they were willing to go to achieve their ambitions. Their partnership marked the beginning of a new era in the underworld. With Valeria Kane's mentorship and backing, Elena rapidly rose as a powerful and influential figure. The connection between them grew stronger over time, rooted in respect, ambition, and strategic brilliance. Together, they navigated the dangerous currents of the criminal world, forming a formidable alliance that would redefine power and leave a lasting legacy. Present time. Elena settled into a chair inside the grand hall, while Valeria Kane took a seat across from her. "Suddenly you called me here. Is everything all right?" Elena asked. "Yes, Elena, everything is fine," Valeria Kane replied calmly. "Actually, I recently visited Kuwait and brought back some advanced, new technology weapons. I wanted you to take a look and choose anything that interests you." Elena nodded, understanding the reason behind the sudden invitation. "I would love to see them," she responded thoughtfully, "but I already have a fairly strong stockpile. And to be honest, these days I'm not even using my existing arsenal that much." Valeria Kane fixed her gaze on Elena and spoke in a firm, unwavering voice. "I know what is happening in your life, Elena. You are falling in love with a police officer, and there has been quite a bit of drama around it. Yes, I am aware." They paused, their eyes sharp but not judgmental. "To be honest, that is your personal life, and I have no intention of interfering. But you must always stay alert, always on your toes. In our world, anything can happen at any moment. Do you understand what I am trying to say?" Elena nodded silently, absorbing every word with seriousness. Without another word, Valeria Kane led her toward the underground arena, where the new stock of weapons had been displayed. The dim lighting cast long, ominous shadows across the walls, enhancing the arena's dangerous allure. Weapons were mounted with precision, some vintage and ornately carved, others sleek and modern. Shields of various eras lined the walls, blending history with innovation. The place felt both fascinating and deadly. Elena stepped forward and picked up a sleek black katana. She tested its weight, appreciating the flawless balance in her hands. With controlled precision, she swung it through the air, the blade cutting sharply through the silence of the room. Those watching could sense the intensity in her movements. Every weapon she examined was not merely equipment, it was a statement. She moved on to the next piece, a custom-crafted firearm, built with modern precision. A faint smirk appeared on her lips as she assessed its grip and mechanism. The arena seemed to hum with tension. Valeria Kane watched carefully. They understood that in Elena's hands, these weapons were not just instruments of power, they were symbols of authority. Each piece she selected would become an extension of her will, ready to enforce her dominance in the darkest corners of the city. The underground arena was more than just a testing ground. It was a symbol of her unchallenged dominion, a place where even the fiercest adversaries would hesitate before daring to cross her path. Elena was nearly finished selecting the weapons when her gaze suddenly halted on a striking piece of armor displayed at the far end of the chamber. It immediately caught her attention. The armor stood tall within its reinforced case, crafted in an ancient style yet polished with a modern finish. Its metallic surface gleamed under the dim lights, intricate engravings running along the chest plate and shoulders. It looked powerful, regal, almost legendary. Drawn to it, Elena stepped forward and attempted to lift it from its stand. "Damn, why is this so heavy?" she muttered under her breath. But the whisper did not go unheard. Valeria Kane watched her carefully and replied calmly, "Because it is not ordinary armor. It is modernized, reinforced with contemporary technology, but designed in an ancient style.